Hey, hi, hello, this is International Poznan and you guys are behind the scenes. Jesteście za kulisami. Bardzo się cieszę, że będę mógł przedstawić moich najnowszych gości. Dzisiaj jesteśmy w Wielkiej Brytanii, ale z artystami. Jest pisarz i jest z nami fotograf. There is a writer, there is a photographer, and it is my pleasure to host you. There's Ben Aitken on your left, guys, so you can show. There's Furkan behind the camera, but there's Ben Aitken from the University of London, but actually from a different city. Hello.
Hello.
Really great to have you. And there's Richard Morgan, a British photographer.
Hi.
Okay, that is perfect. I would like to welcome everybody to International Poznan. And it is my pleasure to start this new episode with artists in the studio, because there's Ben, who's a writer, and there's Richard, who's a photographer. So first of all, do you, gentlemen, consider yourselves to be artists? Czy uważacie siebie za artystów?
I nominate Richard to answer that question.
Okay. Nominuję Ryszarda do odpowiedzi na to pytanie. So Richard, you're nominated.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I do personally think we are. We had a project called Ulica.
Here in Poznan.
Yeah, here in Poznan. We share a flat with two Polish friends and another English friend now on Szamaszewskiego. And we documented our street, combining Ben's writing, creative writing, and my street photography.
So that is your first meeting in Poznan, the two of you. Is it how you met each other?
No, we met in London through Tinder, you know, the dating application. No, we didn't really. we met at university. Richard was studying history, I was studying literature, and we became friends then. I moved to Poznan about a year ago.
Okay.
And because he likes me so much, he followed me about 4 months later.
Oh wow, that means that you really liked Ben, Richard.
I missed him.
You did?
Yeah, I missed him.
For
met.
What exactly? What can be Ben missed
his
for?
sense of humour.
His sense of humour, that's for sure.
But we met at university about 12 years ago. So.
Oh wow, so that is a long-lasting friendship.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just like to ask you, Richard, to be a bit closer to the microphone, and also, do you have cell phones with you?
No.
No, that is fine. Do you, Richard?
I do, yeah.
Because if you feel like that, you can share the video with your friends to let them know.
Oh, it doesn't come naturally to me, so I'll.
Okay, so you can do it later on.
Yeah.
Especially if you're sure that it actually did work. You can always just show me when I am talking Furkan, and I know that you are just learning this new job. And I wanted to let you know that there's Furkan behind the camera. This is a radio show when I talk to foreigners, and it always is my pleasure. I would like to ask you about this moment 1 year ago, Ben. When you arrived to Poznan, what did it feel like? I know that you already knew Richard. He was a friend of yours. But was it one big question mark? Czy to był jeden wielki znak zapytania?
Yeah. It was a big question mark. I knew some of the answers I might arrive at because there are plenty of Polish people who are living in the UK now who I had observed and met. And so I wasn't completely ignorant, of course, about Poland.
Did that matter? Czy to miało znaczenie that you met a lot of Poles in Britain?
Yeah, it was one of the motivations because the relationship between Britain and Poland now is different to what it was 15 years ago before Poland joined the European Union. We've now got over 1 million Polish people living happily in the United Kingdom, and unfortunately there are some negative responses to that arrangement because of the nature of the EU and its freedom of movement. It's become a popular story in the newspapers. It was crucial leading up to the referendum in...
Ben mówi tutaj o tym, jak zmieniały się nastroje, because the feeling would change. I guess in 2004 we were all excited about the integration when Poland just joined the European Union, alongside I think 10 other countries. But Poland was the biggest one to really send a lot of people, or to have a lot of people deciding to live in the UK. And then we have 2017. And we know that there's more than 1 million, you say.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think that it was because of the European Union to actually make the people unhappy about the situation, or is it just because of what people feel like? And I don't know where these sentiments come from. Nie wiem, skąd jest taki nastrój, żeby wycofywać się z tej integracji. People don't really want to integrate anymore in the UK, or it at least seems to me to be that way.
Well, it certainly isn't the case that people don't want to integrate. I, for one, Richard, for another, believe and sponsor the idea of diversity and sharing. And I think the vast majority of British people do also. There is a minority, and you'll find them in any country, that have concerns about not really integration, but more numbers. And the fact that as many people as they wish can move to England and Scotland and Wales just can feel like some people to be too liberal a policy. And it can put too much of a strain on public services which are being cut year on year because of austerity programs in the United Kingdom. So the influx of people into the UK, and I'm careful about my terms, influx, it's nothing too dramatic.
Przypływ ludzi.
Yeah, the effect of people arriving in our country, yeah, it can boost the economy, it can create energy and dynamism, but some people will come to the opinion that there's too many people entering. And those people could be coming from Greenland, they could be coming from Australia, South America, they could be coming from Ireland. It's a simple matter of numbers to many people. And then the media, who have a different objective and prerogative, will start to encourage people to be fearful, and they will exaggerate the stress that's put on public services. And before you know it, a country is in a position to be fully divided when it comes to a referendum. But I think I've spoken to this issue. I've spoken to Richard about this issue before, and you think something slightly different when I suggested that.
What does Richard say?
I allude to the conversation we had when I suggested that it didn't matter where the people were coming from. It was about the numbers. And people just feel that there's
too many.
It's too many. It's not about Polish people, Latvian people, Slovakians. But Richard suggested that perhaps it is more to do with xenophobia and an intolerance of
Bardziej
other
tu
people.
chodzi o liczbę ludzi i o to, że ona się nagle zrobiła tak ogromna. Słuchacie MC Radia swoją drogą? Czy to jest kwestia tego, że to konkretne narodowości i czy ksenofobia za tym przemawia? And what did you say, Richard?
Well, look, this is just an impression that I get, but I feel that the way foreigners are discussed in British mainstream media differs greatly depending on which foreigners are discussed. And there's certainly a way to talk about Eastern Europeans, and there's a different way to talk about, for example, Australians. And this is, I'm generalizing here. Of course, it's difficult not to generalize when talking about nations and such things.
What is the way of the British media to talk about the Eastern Europeans? Jak brytyjskie media mówią o ludziach ze wschodu Europy?
The whole thing is bound up in a Cold War, a sense of Cold War conception of Eastern Europe as being...
Czyli wciąż ta zimnowojenna retoryka.
As being austere, backwards, unskilled, uneducated.
Backwards, czyli niewykształceni, zacofani i w dodatku nieprzygotowani.
Yeah, and these characteristics are not applied to discussions about, for example, Spanish people, Italian people, French people, German people, Australians, Scandinavians, and it is bound up in the Cold War mentality of the East, or of the Eastern Europe, which still persists. And if the Cold War mentality is still around, you just look at the relationship between America and Russia, and Britain and Russia at the moment, it's very frosty.
I didn't plan that, but we have started with the rather really challenging topics, and I really appreciate us talking about it.
It goes to Brexit quite quickly when you're British.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I'd rather talk about something else.
Of course. A więc ten temat być może już porzucimy, dlatego że to przygnębiające dla moich gości. It's rather upsetting for you guys, I can feel. But it is said in a way that we still have this type of rhetorics persisting that the people from Spain, Italy, Portugal are the cool immigrants, and the people from Poland, Ukraine, or Czech Republic are the unwanted immigrants.
Bulgaria and Romania is.
Bulgaria, Romania.
And that's certainly the case in Poland as well, because being British immigrants, not expats or tourists, I count myself as an immigrant. Being British immigrants, we're quite privileged and welcomed, more or less, aren't we? And if we were from Ukraine, it might be different. If we were from North Africa, it might be different.
I agree.
So
I agree.
The experience of being an immigrant anywhere is completely manifold, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's in whichever country you're in, there's probably a hierarchy of value attached to different nationalities of immigrants.
Yeah, there is just a set of
not unique to the UK at all.
A set of beliefs associated with the nationality that we're speaking about. So I wish that it changes, that it changed in the future. I really hope that it can happen, because you guys are, as you say, privileged here in Poland. We not so much in the UK. So maybe at one moment it changes. What do you want to say, Richard?
Well, I think Polish people are generally welcomed in the UK.
Yes.
There's a sort of counter alternative way of talking about Polish people in the UK, which some people participate in, which is negative, but on the whole I think it's very positive, and we both have experience of that. I have Polish friends in the UK who I visit when I go back,
That is important
often,
to say.
and loads of other people do. I mean, there's a thriving Polish community in many places in the UK.
And that is great to hear, really, and I really appreciate that, because you're just saying that it is still a minority, and it doesn't change the normal healthy relationships that you guys have. A więc jeśli chodzi o takiego przeciętnego Brytyjczyka, to on raczej przychylny Polakowi, a Polak przychylny Brytyjczykowi. I just wanted to say that Poles really are fond of English men, so this is a great meeting that we're having. Of course, and man, I wanted to say as just human, and it will always be a pleasure to host you. I just wanted us to hear some music. This is going to be with Michael Bublé, I Believe in You, which is a pretty recent song. You guys might be surprised that there's music on this show, but it actually is a big and important part of the show. So please stay tuned and please ask your questions. To jest MC Radio 102.7 FM. Thank you so very much for being with us, for being with Michael Bublé, who is a great Canadian artist. And we have an episode with artists who are not musicians, though. So there's somebody that I would like you to meet. There's Mr. Ben and there's Mr. Richard.
Hi.
So what did you want to say,
we are actually
Richard?
musicians as well.
You are musicians?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
We both play the guitar. And
one more than the other.
One more than the other.
Okay, so you normally use your guitars also when living here in Poland?
Yeah. Our flats. We've got 2 guitars in our flat.
Oh, I wish that you had them today, but we didn't know.
Well, we did plan to bring one along, because I've just written a new song about absolutely nothing, which we wanted to kind of premiere here. But we thought better of it. But Richard, along with flatmate Yenje, who plays the cello and the guitar and sings, they're trying to organise. You're thinking about doing an open mic night at Dragon Club.
Yeah, open mic night.
Course.
Yeah, so we think
everybody's allowed.
Yeah,
even I.
Exactly,
to sing.
And I think it's a really good way because there's a lot of musicians who.
W klubie Dragon. Where is it?
It's just off the main square. It's just off Stary Dynek.
Stary Dynek, right?
Well, it's just off Stary Dynek.
Okay.
I should know the address. I've spent most of my
close
adult
to.
life
I think it's close to the new tower that they just built.
That's right.
Góra Przemysław. That's very close. Okay, so you guys want to organize an open mic?
Yeah.
And what will happen?
Well, it would be perhaps the first Thursday of every month. If you play, you get a free beer, and you get the attention.
You discussed that with the owners.
Yeah. You'd get a chance to perform in front of lots of attentive and welcoming people, and it's a chance for people who write their own songs in their bedrooms and they might play it to their friends, but they don't have the chance to have their own gig or their own show.
Exactly.
It's a really cool opportunity, and I think, and it would just be a great party as well.
Do you guys try to engage Poles a lot? Do you organize a lot of events, being artists? Is there something that you've already tried?
Well, we had this event in Tandem Studio, Ulica, and this was really, I think it was really popular with Polish people. You know, I think they were really inquisitive about what we were doing, about our interpretation of Szamaszewskiego and our interpretation of, you know, Polish street life and Polish life. And it proved to be quite interesting, the interpretations of Polish people. When they came to this event, we had an opening at Tandem Studio on Gawana back in early part of this year. And
what is the interpretation of the Polish street life?
Well,
and just come to a microphone a bit closer, as always. If you could have your hands on the table, that would help.
There's no one interpretation of Polish street life, but we certainly have I think there's certainly a style that unites Ben's writing and my photography. I think we're drawn to kind of interesting moments that challenge ideas about Poland or that exaggerate ideas about Poland.
Can you tell me more, Ben? Because I'm still lost.
You're still lost?
Yes, I still don't know what exactly do you...
Przykro mi.
No, mi też jest przykro, ale nie wiem, o co chodzi z tym życiem ulicznym. What do you mean, guys, by street life? What did you actually try to figure out?
Well, imagine the street that you live on.
Okay.
And you went out with a camera, or in my case a notepad, and you were asked to walk up and down 10 times.
And you, sorry, what?
You were asked to walk up and down 10 times your street.
Okay, so you go back and forth, the same street.
Back and forth, and you're going to stop occasionally because something takes your attention. Is that right?
Yes.
And when it does, you either take a picture, or in my case, you build that picture from words. Now, depending on who's taking the picture, different things will arrest them. For Richard, it's moments of intimacy, it's moments of poverty, it's moments of disgrace, jubilation, and I guess it's the same for me. It's difficult to put in a nutshell. Do you know the phrasal verb to put in a nutshell?
Yes, tak w skrócie o czymś opowiedzieć.
Okay, great. It's difficult to put in a nutshell exactly what it is, what gravitates you towards certain images, but I suppose there was an aesthetic, and that was one of confusions, tension, but beauty, but not in a conventional sense.
What did catch your eye? Just one thing.
One thing, 11 Polish builders who had made a hole in the road, and they were all down in the hole that they'd made, discussing this or that pipe that needed to be polished or trimmed or cut.
11 drogowców zrobiło dziurę w jezdni i zaczęło tam wspólnie debatować. Wszyscy byli w niej i zastanawiali się, jakie rury umieścić.
And of the 11 men in this hole, there was one who was looking in a different direction. He was looking at the window of a ladies' clothing shop across the street, and he was carefully imagining his wife, or that's how I chose to interpret what he was doing. He was imagining his wife in each of the dresses before choosing which one he was going to buy with his wages at the end of the week, you know. But that scene for me was arresting, and so I stopped and looked at it for 5-10 minutes and tried to find the words that would best kind of render it or produce it on a page, you know.
Where can I read that?
Well, you ought to have come to the exhibition at the end of January, Maciej,
but it'll be on again. We're doing.
That's true.
We're doing Ulica, a Polish street as seen by aliens. This is the title of our project.
Polska ulica widziana oczami obcokrajowców, obcych, by aliens. So the Polish streets seen by foreigners.
Yeah, and we're putting it on again with the help of FKA. You know FKA.
Fundacja Kultury Akademickiej?
Yeah, and we're looking at doing it in container art.
Okay.
So that'll be the end of May. For those who are interested, you should come. It's a really sort of interesting project. That one of my favorite thing about it is combining photographic and literary images.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I will be
because-
really happy to see that. I just would like to ask about the time and place.
At the end of May, we can confirm with you, and you can post about it
Okay.
in the future. But
Okay.
so at the moment, it's end of May, Container Art.
And if you're very impatient and you'd like to see them before, that particular written image of the men in the hole is in my bathroom. So that's 36/6 Shamashevskiego.
Come round.
And you're not afraid of telling us where you live, are you?
Should I be?
We already told you we live on Shamashevsky.
I know, but like the actual number.
Come round for tea.
So do you live together? Do you share a flat? Okay. So Shamashevskiego is a good idea or a good way to talk about the Polish nation, and I'll have more questions connected to that. But I'd ask you first about some English music that we could recommend to the listeners of MC Radio. Ben, how about you?
English music.
Yes.
Oh, goodness me. Vaughan Williams, I've heard he's quite good.
Vaughan Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think, is it the Beatles or the Battles or what are they called again? Those little creatures that walk around from Liverpool.
Beatles?
The Beatles, yeah, that's right. And Adele.
Okay.
I'm a Philistine. When it comes to music, I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Why don't you just give one recommendation?
I recommend Richard Morgan, my friend, honestly.
Richard Morgan?
This guy next to me.
Okay, so he should recommend the music.
No, I recommend his music.
How do we find it, Richard?
Oh, I think there might be some on YouTube. I think that's it. really.
iTunes?
No, it's not on iTunes.
Okay. So
Are you looking for a song to
first,
play now?
I will edit it in the show,
Okay.
and that will help. Just give me one English artist and one song that we could play. I feel like you started with Vaughan Williams.
Oh no, I think Sex Pistols, God Save the Queen is a good one.
Yes. So
Sex
what
Pistols,
is the?
God Save the Queen.
Okay. So can you just tell me why that song is something that you would like to recommend?
Oh, I don't know. It's just a funny song. I don't really like it. It's just a funny punk song.
Okay, that is a very unique.
Let's have a serious recommendation.
Okay.
British artist at the moment, band, solo artist that you think's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with a Scottish singer-songwriter called King Creosote.
King Creosote.
Yeah, and the track is called "And the Racket They Made."
Tennis racket?
Noise racket.
Okay, that sounds good to me. This is International Poznan, and we will come back to this international studio. Listening to the sock record they made, and the record they made.
And the
King
Racket They Made.
Creosote and John Hopkins, right?
Mm.
That is the song that you guys recommended. Thank you so very much for the music choice. Why do you think Ben, Richard would choose that one?
I don't know, I've never heard the song.
Okay, Richard? Any
Why?
explanation?
Why did I choose it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a wonderful song at the end of a wonderful album, and I think the album is called Bombshell.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a really talented Scottish singer-songwriter. He's innovative with his instrumentation. His lyrics are wonderful. Everybody should listen to King Creosote. Yeah.
I understand. Is there some emotions connected to that song on your part?
Yeah, of course. There's emotions connected to every song that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the lyrics well?
I do know the lyrics.
So
well.
what narrative
And the
is-
racket they made.
So what
It-
narrative
this
is
is
contained
about-
within the song?
Yeah, this is about and the racket they made is the memories he has of somebody he's lost, not shutting up in his mind, not staying quiet. So the racket is this constant noise, this constant chatter that disturbs him. So anyway, you'd have to listen to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful track. I can't do it justice with describing it.
Of course. Thank you so very much for that. This is International Poznan, and we're here with artists. And there's a writer, and there's a photographer. There's Ben, and there's Richard, who are friends, by the way, and who at some point in their lives have decided to live in Poznan. But there was so many different places before, especially on your part, Richard. I feel like there was Russia, USA, China.
Mm-hmm.
Which of these countries do you feel was so far the best choice?
The best. I don't think any one of them was the best. They were all interesting, of course, for different ways. I've probably felt more foreign.
In Russia?
No. Well, I don't know. It's easy and tempting to say that I felt more foreign in China, but actually I didn't. I probably felt more foreign on the day of Obama's inauguration in Washington, D.C., which was back in 2013, January 2013. That's when I was there. And I had never known anything like it, and I'd never experienced such a presidential atmosphere and the power of a capital before. I'd never experienced that, and I felt very alien there.
Did you feel impressed, or did you just feel overwhelmed? Both. What did you see during the inauguration? Rozmawiamy o roku 2013, kiedy Barack Obama był na drugą kadencję już wybierany. So it was his second term. And you saw what? Cheering people? People really fascinated about him?
Yeah.
Or the power of his speech?
It was just an overwhelming amount of people descended on the Capitol, and they were walking in their hordes down all of the streets to the center, and eventually you couldn't move in the Capitol. But anyway, it was a very interesting place. I also thought his election victory was very interesting. We usually go to the pub to watch. Well, the events that we go to the pub to watch is usually football. But there, I went to the pub to watch the election, because and it sounded like a football match. Upstairs was the Democrat supporters, and downstairs was the Republicans. And
of course, they get along together?
No.
No, but they didn't fight, did they?
They didn't fight, and there were more Democrats in the pub, probably because it was,
Washington,
D.C.
Yeah.
So, but that was again a very. People might expect to feel more at home, a British person to feel more at home in the capital of America than you would in Guangzhou in China.
Exactly.
But it's not always as simple as that.
I asked you earlier in the cafe, we were preparing ourselves for this interview.
Oh.
And I pretended to be you. So I put on some glasses.
He has a good impression.
That I didn't know you wore.
Of course.
And I said to Richard, where did he feel most foreign? Did he feel foreign in Poland? And actually, your answer was quite interesting for me. You said you feel more foreign when you're on Oxford Street in London. And why would that be?
You've been to Oxford Street?
In London? I think so.
Yeah. It's one of the main streets in London. It's recognisable. It's the tourist area.
Very vibrant.
Very vibrant. It's because life there is fascinatingly confusing. The contrasts and the tensions between the projected reality in advertising that is kind of sort of channeling both sides of the street from the windows and from the placards and from the projections, which is pressed upon and weighs down upon, in my mind anyway, the people on the streets, the actual real life people, that you get such a sense of contrast that I find it, again, overwhelming, but tantalizing, fascinating. And I'm working on a project. Every time I go back to London, I go to Oxford Street, and I never used to go to Oxford Street.
But you say you feel foreign there?
Yeah.
And
because I don't recognise it. I don't.
Oh, you're not a part of it, are you? You're detached from it.
Yeah. I think something about being native is kind of seamlessly moving through a culture.
Without reflection or without criticism.
That's very interesting, but we have to take a break. I don't know if you have tried that in your preparing for this interview, that there would be breaks in the radio show. I just wanted to let you know that we're with Ben and with Richard, who are artists from the UK, and they're doing just fine. And I hope that you guys are doing good as well. Waiting for your questions on the website, on the website of International Poznan, on the fun page. Right now, I'm waiting to hear from Mr. John Mayer because this is his Free Fallen, but a new version of the song. So I hope you will appreciate it. And yes, we will be back, of course. John Mayer, Free Fallen, ale takie trochę inne wydanie, to jest tropikalna wersja tej piosenki. To jest International Poznan i to jest MC Radio 102.7. Thank you so very much for being with me. There's Ben and there's Richard. Richard, who just said, just a few minutes ago, that he feels more foreign in the UK on Oxford Street in London than he feels at Szamarzewskiego here in Poznan. So would you say that Poland doesn't feel foreign at all? Or is that not what you were trying to say?
I'm trying to feel foreign everywhere I go. That's the point. I'm trying to... I don't have much of a choice because it's a feeling that you get, but I want to feel foreign. I enjoy feeling foreign. And
what does it give you? What
gives me
the advantage?
Creativity.
Jaka jest korzyść bycia obcym gdzieś?
It gives me the creativity, looking in on something that you're not part of.
Not to be too much into it, so that you still can actually see it, to see the shape of it.
Yeah, you know, there's with photography, you might agree with writing as well, that it's not too difficult to go to a foreign country that seems quite exotic, to take some pictures and to come back and to amaze people about a different way of life.
Yeah.
Because they don't recognize this way of life. But what the challenge is to take pictures of your own country and your own culture and to amaze people, for them to not recognize their own culture, for them to not recognize their own nation. This is the challenge, and this is what I want to look at as a viewer, and it's what I want to create as an artist.
Would it be an even bigger challenge for you to live in the UK?
On Oxford Street.
To take pictures there and to amaze your own people with your work?
Well, that's, like I said, I've got this project on Oxford Street.
Okay.
When I go back there.
I know an American guy in here. His name is Eric Witso.
Yeah.
And he takes pictures of Poznan and of Poland. And he amazes Polish people with how he sees our country and the beauty of it. Because we sometimes might be not sensitive to it.
Exactly. So this is why foreigners are important too. This is, and I'm not just trying to speak of one who currently lives in another country. This is why, I don't want to bring up Brexit again, but this is why maybe a sense of disconnection from foreign countries that some people want in Brexit is a dangerous thing in my eyes, not because of the economy, not because of the economy or some social reasons, but you lose the foreign perspective on yourself, and that is integral, it's important.
And that is always worse. And I agree. I've read a study which shown that if you have a company and if you have a very diverse team, like, you have different ethnicities, different nationalities, different age groups, different education backgrounds, you will have a more productive team and you will have a more creative work done than if you just had white, 30, educated, from big city and male. That is something that the study's shown. A więc im więcej różnorodności, tym więcej wartości. Tutaj jesteśmy w International Poznań i to jest MC Radio. I am glad to have you guys in the studio. I would like to ask about a special experiment that you have done, Ben. And I know it entails the Christmas Eve, the 24th of December, spending it here in Poland. We have a tradition which tells that you should have one seat ready for a random person to share your dinner, your Christmas dinner. And you actually wanted to check it out. You wanted to put it on probe. A więc chciał sprawdzić obecny tutaj w studiu gość, czy ta tradycja rzeczywiście działa, czy zostawiamy wolne miejsce przy stole wigilijnym i czy wpuścimy tę osobę. So would they let you in?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes, they did. I was very.
Was it totally random?
It was totally random. I went to a neighborhood near Miłostowo, and I walked around for 45 minutes nervously, trying to pick the house which had the most Christmas decorations because that maybe suggested that they were friendly.
Szukałem domu, który ma najwięcej dekoracji świątecznych, bo to mogło dawać nadzieję, że tam będą najbardziej życzliwi ludzie.
And of course I was rehearsing my lines in Polish because, as you can probably imagine, I'm not fluent in Polish just yet.
No. You know, you're not fluent, but what did you say? Do you still remember?
More or less, I said, Dobry wieczór, Święknik, whatever Merry Christmas is.
Wesołych świąt?
Something like that. I said, przepraszam, jestem Benjamin, jestem z Anglii, słyszałem, jest tradycja na Wigilia, bla 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 bla. Więc jestem tutaj. Yeah. Okay, so I found one house, I rang the doorbell, and of course, being a Polish house, you don't actually get to the door, you ring the doorbell on the gate, which is an extra perimeter to kind of negotiate. And the children of the house, hearing the doorbell ringing, dashed to the front door.
They thought it was
They thought it was Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
And
Far from it.
and they saw me and they said, that's certainly not Santa Claus, man. He could do with a shave, but it's not quite Santa Claus. And the mother came to the door, opened it, and I gave my rehearsed speech, you know. Dobry wieczór, jestem Benjamin, jestem z Anglii, słyszałem, jest tradycja, etc., etc. And she said, now this is a surprise. In very nice English.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And she gave it some thought. She looked at the children who were smiling up at her, thinking, who is this guy? And she said, come on then. And she brought me through to the dining room and she sat me down, introduced me to the family. There was about 12 people about to start eating the traditional dinner. You know, the 12 courses, one for each disciple. You had the carp, you had the mushroom soup, you had the Greek fish, you had...
Ryba po grecku.
Yeah. You like that?
No.
No, me neither. And I was forced to try everything. I was forced to drink some white wine, some red wine, even though you shouldn't have too much wine at Christmas.
And you shouldn't mix it.
And at first the kids were very quiet because here was an alien. Here was an alien in the dining room all of a sudden. And the parents said to me, this is wonderful. They haven't been this quiet for months. You must stay for a long time. But increasingly the kids relaxed and then they went upstairs to their bedroom and returned with their pet rat called Janusz. And so I was introduced to the pet rat in my new shirt. And that was about the end of it. It was about time to go, so I left then. But it was a lovely experience and it was nice to be welcomed and it was good to see that the tradition is a sincere one. That if a stranger does arrive, then they may well be admitted.
I'm so happy for you. Would you say that if that didn't work out, you would go to another door?
Oh yeah, I would have continued all evening.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You're very persistent.
Jestem wariat, no?
Jesteś wariat. That is a perfect conclusion to this radio episode. I feel like we've talked about a few things. There's always more things to talk about. But we may need to take a full stop, only to hope to reunite in the future. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. And thank you, guys. Thank you so very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And yes, we can finish the recording.